Lucifer, or Luzbel, a very elevated entity of the mental universe, suggested that the mistake was that the evolutionary process was too easy for them, and perhaps not having created the necessary conditions to have an opposition force strong enough to demand maximum effort from these civilizations while they were developing. Lucifer suggested introducing dissociative entities from the mental universe into the material plane to act as demons, making the evolutionary process very difficult. This would re-establish the original rules. But Lucifer thought that they should work with those civilizations that had already been guided by them, and which they had acted directly upon. Those civilizations that were already in the 5th and 6th dimensions of consciousness, and were very close to reaching the 7th dimension, and were about to connect with the creator force. But the other ultra-terrestrials disagreed, saying it was like changing the rules of the game. Just as if we had a son in a military boarding school with rigid discipline. Just 1 year short of his graduation, we put him in a mixed school that is not a boarding school and has no rigid discipline. There is a high probability that he would fail. So these ultra-terrestrials said, you can't change the rules of the game for those already in the advanced stage. And these entities suggested working instead with new civilizations, civilizations that were just getting started. But there were also opinions that it wasn't fair either to vary the rules governing those civilizations. So the final decision was to work with civilizations that had never existed, with planets that had never developed. One of those chosen planets was the Earth. Why? Because according to the extraterrestrials, 1.2 billion years ago, a meteor shower extinguished life on planet Earth. Our world, being a dead planet, a planet with no future, would permit hosting this experiment, along with 7 additional planets. A group of extraterrestrial civilizations received authorization from cosmic hierarchies, from beings of other dimensions, to travel a long time in space and arrive on Earth before the Earth died, and stop the planet from dying by creating for the Earth a paradoxical alternate time. Travel a long time in space and arrive on Earth before the Earth died, and stop the planet from dying by creating for the Earth a paradoxical alternate time. Let's imagine for an instant that time in the universe is like an ascending spiral, and in one of the curves of the spiral, the Earth died, but the universe continued. So a group of civilizations that is able to travel through space and time, through cosmic folds and multidimensional gates, arrives on Earth and stops the Earth from dying. These emissaries took charge of transforming acid oceans into alkaline oceans. They sowed spores in our world. They accelerated the process of life, hoping that our planet, at a certain moment, could foster a civilization with a psychic and spiritual potential, able to reach levels of evolution that not even these visitors had achieved. It would be a civilization able to reconnect with and establish a bridge of communication with the creator universe, with the spiritual universe. It would be a civilization destined to surpass their own level of development. The prospect of this opportunity going to new civilizations did not make Lucifer happy. From the very first moment, he tried to boycott and sabotage the project and prevent it from going forward, because it wasn't what he had suggested. We will discover then that the first civilization to be established on our planet was of extraterrestrial origin. Beings of the constellation of the Swans landed on our planet, in a continent in the area corresponding to the present location of Antarctica. This first civilization was also called Antarctica. Later on, other beings arrived in what corresponds to the Mesozoic era, or secondary era, and they installed themselves in the upper part of northern Europe, in what became the Hyperborean civilization, the upper north. These beings coexisted with an unstable and violent environment, dominated by dinosaurs. They performed genetic manipulation as part of their mission, but then 65 million years ago, without them being able to stop it, a meteor shower took place That was a terrible disaster. A cosmic catastrophe was caused by an asteroid of nearly 10 kilometers in diameter, which hit our planet, leaving a crater of 250 kilometers in diameter on the coast of Mérida in the Yucatan Gulf. The impact produced an expansive wave so violent that it wiped out a large proportion of the dinosaurs. Had not this happened, these creatures would have evolved into an intelligent form of life, and today they would be the ones to rule our planet with their intelligence. Our planet was so profoundly affected by the meteoric impact that we could almost say life was extinguished on our world. That's why the Earth was the first planet of the 8 selected for dismissal. 8 planets had been chosen, 2 per galaxy, from a group of galaxies that rotated around M31, the great nebula of Andromeda, located 2 million light-years from us. So there were 2 planets from each of 4 galaxies in that group. After planet Earth was dismissed, they concentrated on the remaining 7 planets. But with time, 3 of those planets were totally destroyed, but even dust remained on them. The original 8, the cosmic directors, ended up now with 4. A very worrying fact. Having the project fail on the other 4 planets, they decided to give a new opportunity to planet Earth. These beings who always traveled through space and time for them not being the same as it is for us, came to our world and found out that 80,000 years ago, the Lemurian race, the black race originating from Earth, had evolved to such an extent that they had awakened all their potential, including their extrasensory perception. These human beings were capable of discovering that we were living in an alternate time, different from the real time of the universe, and that time could be crossed. Part of this development resulted from the consumption of hallucinogenic plants, something that the extraterrestrials frowned on. When the extraterrestrials that had dedicated attention to the development of the other 4 planets found out that humanity on Earth was evolving and advancing, but had done it through a process that they considered unworthy, they decided to come here some 30,000 to 35,000 years ago and induce a terrible regression in the form of a collective forgetting or global amnesia on the part of humanity. This is mentioned in the Bible in Genesis chapter 11, when it refers to the Tower of Babel. There was an era in history when human beings used to speak the same language. What this means is that we had developed telepathy, extrasensory perception, and we had even been able to construct a ladder to the sky, meaning a connection with the superior, with other realities. And the Bible says that the Elohim were afraid that to the human being nothing would be impossible. So they decided to intervene, to make us forget. That is how 30 to 35,000 years ago, a terrible devolution of the human being was induced in the form of a generalized amnesia, which served to enable the visitors to reassert their own supervision and their control. 25,000 years ago, the beings of 2 big civilizations, Orion and Pleiades, were sent by the galactic counselors to intervene on our planet as guardians and sentinels. Some of them were beings from Orion, and others were beings of the Pleiades. Not all Orions had a humanoid or anthropomorphic appearance. There were ones with reptilian appearance, specifically the chief of the Orions, who was called Satan, an extraterrestrial, not to be confused with Lucifer, who was an ultra-terrestrial.